Hi there. Hey, I know in one of my last videos I was talking about sorting through my books and, having to kind of find a place to put them and stuff like that. But, I was going through the books and I found, a lot of the books that I would read with the girls when they were growing up. One of my favourite was this one that's called One is a Snail and 10 is a Crab. And they absolutely loved this book, so I would read it a lot. But it got me, I was going through everything and these things came up. And I just wanted to talk today about the empty nest syndrome. And I know in the beginning when the girls left home, I was frantically on YouTube and I was trying to find some kind of footing for myself to work through the grief that I was feeling when they left home. And I thought, so this was kind of a bit fitting in a way that I would also do a video on that. And on my walk today, I was looking at, there was some kids playing and, they're the moments that they're real pangs for me. That's the best word that I've got, is there will be a moment, like this morning I woke up really happy, singing and dancing and doing what I normally do on my own. But then there's those moments where I go back into that real grief of, I suppose, parenthood as well. And I'm not saying that that grief is with me all the time, because it certainly isn't. I live a very full life and happy life. But I want to talk about empty nest syndrome. So when, we talk about grief, for a lot of people, and obviously I'm a counsellor and I've gone, I work a lot in the grief space and I understand it a lot more, but it always fascinates me that people think grief is automatically the death of someone, and that is grief. But what I see is that grief is in our lives so often, and grief is all about, it's a loss of something that was pivotal in our lives that we won't get back, right? So we don't grieve someone that's gone on a holiday because we know that person's going to come back. So it's that disconnect for a life we once had and the changes that are going to come with it, right? So moving house is a grief process and all of that. So that's what I know grief as. And empty nest syndrome holds so much grief for me. So I know I have spoken about this in another video, but the way this happened was quite interesting, I suppose. So for the whole life of me and my girls, and they're twins, so it's a very different dynamic, I suppose, in having children that are different ages, because they tend to, one will leave home before the other and stuff like that. So anyway, twins, I was a single parent throughout our whole lives together. Even when I was married, I still considered myself a single parent because he wasn't their father and we parented very, very differently. So it was us. And I look back and I think from the minute they were conceived, they became my world. So my world shifted from it being about me, and it shifted towards it being about the three of us. So, that whole journey, especially in the first, I would say the first 10 years were just us. It was us doing everything together. It was me, my life revolved around the things the girls did. So, netball would be about them playing, but it would also be about me catching up with the other mums. And so my world didn't exist really outside of my role as their mum and all that came with it. And I absolutely loved that. And, I think if ever I was going to go into the movies, and they asked me to cry, the one thing that would make me cry is when I think about the girls as little people, because I really, really miss them. I really, really miss them. And there's something that isn't going to come back. Those kids are grown up, but I miss them because there was so much laughter and joy and we had hard times, but it was, I don't know, it was just a bubble of all that was being a mum, I suppose, for me. So anyway, and then we rolled on to the teen years, which I've always said very openly, hideous years. Hideous for them, hideous for me. I felt, this move towards independence was one thing, but that kind of balking against me, that feeling of it, for me, it felt very much it was me and them. And it felt very isolating and lonely for me. So it was very challenging. Got through that, yay. And now, of course, the adults have a completely different relationship with them, and absolutely love this time that we can sit down and actually be adults and talk about really, cool things and art and go shopping and all. So lovely. But there was one time, and they were around, I think it was about 18, 19, and they went for a holiday interstate, which was great. And, took them to the airport and was like, yeah, got a couple of weeks on my own, and, all that went with that. It was great. But along that way, they decided that actually they wanted to stay there, and it was a place that they wanted to live. So they came back home, packed up their stuff, and the next time I dropped them at the airport, I didn't know when I was going to see them again. And I've got to tell you, that drive home from the airport was pretty hectic for me. That wave of grief that came over me, and the sheer panic that I felt, and that I was alone, and this wasn't going to change. They weren't going to come back and then, suddenly we're going to be together again. This was it. And then I got home and I sat on the couch literally for the next week, and I entered into the whole grief, and it was waves of emotion, waves of it, and lots in it, entanglements and all of that, and lots of triggers and everything. But the one thing that was positive, Rosie loved it, because every time I'd feel a real emotional wave, we went for a walk. So she went for a lot of walks in that week, and I gave myself that week, knowing about grief and all of that. So I gave myself that week. I rode those storms, I rode those waves, and I think I did it pretty well. But it was so intense, and I never thought it would be that intense. And so when I'm working with other women, and especially, especially being single and being a single mum, there's no one else there to pick up the shortfall for you, to sit there with your grief and share it. Or, there's no one then to step out and go, well, now we've got this life that we can start building, and all that. I felt extremely vulnerable, extremely alone, and in this moment of, what the fuck do I do now? And it was literally that feeling. What do I do? Who am I? What am I? When I'm not a parent, what am I going to do? And it was that was it. And I sat with all those feelings, and I really noticed them. And of course, I don't want the girls to come home. I don't want them to come and live with me again. I'm so proud of them. I'm so proud of me as a mum that they had, they had the ability to go interstate and go and live, and, they didn't feel held back by my needs, and I'm so very proud of myself for that. And I'm so proud of them for going and creating this life, and they're young and all of that. So I hold this duality, this proudness and happiness for them, and also for me, next chapter and that. But then there's also the grief that comes up with it. And, the other thing that I want to say is the grief that I felt sitting on that couch for that whole week is not the grief that I feel now. Right? Over time, it gets put into its place. It gets, your life starts evolving in directions, and that grief becomes different. So it will still show up for me, the kids playing, the books, the photo albums. I don't even look at them at the moment, because I know what that's going to feel like. Those moments of wishing that I just for a day had my little girls back. All of those, that shows up for me. That's grief. You know what? It's not going to go away. And I think, and I apologise for Rosie barking, I think we've got to hold the knowledge that that doesn't go away, because we really don't want that to go away, because that's love. You know what I mean? So the goal is to be able to sit in those moments, to be able to detach from those moments, and to allow ourselves to have grieving time, whether it's I want to have a big cry, I want to, whatever, journal, write a poem, whatever you need to do in that time, allow yourself the space to do that. It is so important. But I want to end this video with the fact that if you're going through empty nest syndrome, my heart goes out to you. It is a really hard position to be in. The loss of that is profound, and I totally get it. And reinventing yourself and rebuilding a life, and all of that it is hard work. It's very rewarding, very it's great in so many ways as well. But my advice is to give yourself the space, hold that space for yourself, take time out if you need to in the beginning, walk, journal, do anything you need to do to get those feelings out. And know, what, you're not alone in this. This is profound. Please take care of yourself wherever you are, whatever you're doing today. Know that you matter, and I'm thinking of you.